500 million years ago, the microcontinent was situated near the equator. The Western scientists called it Kazakhstania. The structure with almost full list of elements from the Mendeleev's table inside its depth. What secrets does Kazakhstan soil have? How rich is it? Natural resources are the history of our land for thousands of years. The evolution of life on Earth began almost 3.5 billion years ago, with the appearance of the first living beings. But there are not so many places on the planet where evidences of origin of the earliest forms of life could be found. South Kazakhstan, Karatau. The unique mountain system which witnessed the era of the dinosaurs, the first human beings, and even the appearance of the first living organisms. Here, layer by layer, the entire history of Earth has been recorded by the mountain terrain. Let's imagine Karatau as a giant stone book where all chronicles of the planet history were carefully recorded by Earth. And each chapter of this book contains the episodes in size of millions of years. So let's begin. Chapter 1. Karatau is the most northern ridge of the Tian Shan Mountains. Modern scientists have determined that the terrain was formed during the Precambrian era. So, according to researchers, the large Karatau fault appeared nearly 1.5 billion years ago during the Proterozoic era. The magmatic processes activated in the rift zone. That's how the chain of active volcanoes, that is the Riffian-rich Paleo-Karatau, was formed. A billion years later, a saltwater pool with many islands and typical Cambrian fauna were formed here. The new ranges and valleys, which transformed to the majestic mountains of Karatau, appeared as a result of tectonic and volcanic activity. Such intensive developments in this area resulted in a great variety of occurrent minerals. It's notable that Karatau is still continuing to grow. For example, mountains in the Shakpak village area continue to rise up to 12 millimeters per year, and Mendjelke, the highest point of the Karatau, is much older than the surrounding peaks.
Karatau
is the most ancient mountains among geological formations in Kazakhstan. This area has full right to be called the cradle of humankind. Today, scientists consider the neighborhood of the ancient mountains as an open-air museum of the history of Earth. After all, here archaeologists find the traces of the very first people who lived on the territory of Kazakhstan. The most ancient monuments, which can be found on the territory of Kazakhstan, are located here. These are camps belonging to a Kulian and Olduan culture. According to analysis, the age of artifacts that were found in the river of Arstandy is 800,000 years old. The following monuments belong to the Kulian culture, and their age is 700,000 years old. There are Bori Kazgan and Tanir Kazgan. At this moment, these are the most unique findings located on the territory of Kazakhstan. According to scientists, in Karatau, the first human beings appeared about 2 million years ago. Animals, forced to move by the Great Ice Age, migrated to the south searching for food, and the first humans followed them. The migrants chose place near the Karatau Ridge as a new area of habitat. Therefore, in this region's camps of ancient people contained cultural layers starting from the Paleolithic era.
Горы Карактау, они в основном насыщены источниками родниковых вод.
There are a lot of sources of spring water and melted snow in the Karatau mountains. Of course, where water is, there is a life. There are a lot of monuments, camps and workshops in Karatau. Why are they here? Because, as long as the mountains are made of silicon containing chalcedony, the raw materials are nearby. Primitive people cut rocks and processed them all in one place. Then they took ready-made weapons to their hunting camps. Karatau has also prehistoric rock easels of primitive artists where ancient creators were telling the story of their lives. Mythical animals, solar deity, hunting scenes, and the most unique images like war chariot can be seen in the stone gallery. In the Karatau region, the nature is special. Here are the rocks among which prehistoric people settled. They left their artwork. These petroglyphs are often found in this region, and they don't look like any rock paintings that have been discovered previously. Most likely, such terms as Karatau petroglyphs will even appear in the scientific community. They left a huge mark in history, and at the same time they sank into oblivion. Thus far, the scientists could not find any fragments of human remains in this area. The reason for that is desert climate of arid zone. Why are there no bones of primitive people? This is because of weather conditions, as most of the territory of the Karatau Mountains is an arid area. In such areas, the bones of primitive people decomposed and turned into ashes. So, such climate of these places is not favorable for conservation of bones. During the Bronze Age, Karatau became one of the centers of ancient metallurgy. People who lived on these territories at that time made a huge contribution in the development of ore deposits.
В ходе изучения культур этих племен мы обнаружили много вещей, то есть артефактов, сделанных именно.
While studying these findings, we discovered a lot of artifacts that were exactly made of metal, on ferrous metal. They were arrowheads, jewelry, as well as items of ceramic ware. It shows that people of the Bronze Age restored battered ceramics. More precisely, brackets of the restored objects were made of bronze. All these confirm that the tribes who were living in the Karatau in the Bronze Age intensively extracted ores and produced metal things. That explains a lot. For example, it explains the fact that they understood the quality of ore, metal alloys, and temperature of melting. In the Middle Ages, there were rich cities near Karatau. That's because of the Silk Road, which had caravan routes along the Karatau Reach. Local merchants were using it, of course, to export metal. Medieval towns, located on the northern slope of the Karatau, were the center of the blacksmith craft. The people produced different metal things. Damascus steel was also made there. It went for export. Copper, aluminum, and lead were extracted there. Fragments of knives and different products that were made of metal were also found there. But before the first human being appeared on Earth, giant creatures had ruled the planet hundreds of millions of years ago. They were dinosaurs, mammoths, and woolly rhinoceroses. The Karatau had very favorable conditions for the development of fauna. They were even taught ungulates and mammals. According to paleontologists, climate was close to subtropical and tropical at the time. Traces of camps of primitive people, ancient fauna, skeletons of the first vertebrates, the history of our planet, perfectly preserved in the area stretching for 500 kilometers. The Karatau Mountains is a museum of chronicles of the Earth's geological history, which dates a few hundred million years back. Surprisingly, scientists have found traces of the very first living organism in the lower layers of the mountain system. So let's go back to 550 million years ago. Do you remember? There was an ancient Paleo-ocean instead of the Karatau Mountains. It was the time of Cambrian explosion that became the biggest mystery of evolution happened on Earth. The unique event happened on the planet. A lot of new biological forms that later became the most important forerunners of modern types of organisms, including human ones, suddenly appeared at the same time. The older sediments did not contain such a variety of wildlife. There were some remains of algae. The Cambrian period is known for the fact that there was a large number of diverse fauna, in particular brachiopods, trilobites, stromatolites. It is the only system with a large variety of trilobites. Trilobites, marine arthropods that dominated on Earth for 300 million years. The Paleozoic era was the time of their birth, prosperity and demise. These extinct arthropods lived in the Karatau shallow seas. The climate of the Cambrian period was the most comfortable for them. The examples of fossils of the ancient organisms that once lived in Karatau are literally lying under our feet. According to their size, the experts of the stratigraphy can determine the age of deposits.
Из-за чего именно они интересны в Кембрии? Потому что любые изменения...
Why are we interested in the Cambrian trilobites? Because these organisms were highly responsive to change in the environment, whether it was water or light. Stratigraphic scale was exactly constructed based on such data. This scale is used not only in Kazakhstan, it's also used in Russia, and the scientists there recognized all of our geological layers. It's also worth noting that our data has been protected at international meetings. Today, the Cambrian scale is a replaceable assistant for exploration geologists. Only by using current scale, it is possible to identify mineral deposits related to a particular period. In other words, all these prehistoric insects are some sort of a map that helps geologists to disclose the richest deposits.
Для Кембрия характерны это фосфориты, и дальше у нас очень много...
The Cambrian period can be characterized by presence of phosphates. Later, during the Devonian and Carboniferous period, polymetallic deposits were formed. Karatau also has uranium and vanadium deposits. Although not the entire Mendeleev's periodic table, but a lot of elements of the periodic system we are able to observe in deposits of the big and small Karatau. Kurshabakti geologic cross-section is the oldest paleontological monument of nature in the basin of small Karatau. The entire history of Earth was captured on the territory of 1,000 hectares. The Cambrian deposits are seen in layer by layer. They overlapped the Riphean strata and formed what was called a tectonic window that exposed the ancient rocks. By the way, these rocks are more than 1.5 billion years old. Here, you also can see Vendean conglomerate, fragments of which formed 630 million years ago, while glaciers were melting. And this is the Cambrian layers. Here, sea trilobites, gastropods, and brachiopods lived in shallow waters. Each artifact that was found here is more than 500 million years old.
The
Karshibak fault is a significant geologic cross-section. Here we can fully observe the change of the fauna of trilobites. International scientists have already accepted uniqueness of the Karatau cross-section. Here, geologists can see a solid cross-section aged 50 million years. It was the Cambrian period, rich with invertebrate fauna. Thus, prehistoric organisms made Kazakhstan famous for the rest of the world. Here, above dolomite layer, we see about 600 meter long section rich with organics. Such section has not been found anywhere else. Last century they were trying to find similar levels in the Soviet Union and the United States, and the levels were there, but they were separated. And here we can see solid section. Academician Gapar Irgaliev has been studying this entire geologic artifact for 50 years. He had passed hundreds of kilometers and split many stones before he found keolites that are organisms which geologists call gramophone needles. They were the inhabitants of the Lower Cambrian. In the mountains, academician Irgaliev has also found different types of stromatolites of the Vendean period and the same Cambrian arthropods trilobites. Imagine that each layer was located horizontally. It should be split layer by layer, not crosswise. Otherwise you will find nothing, only layer by layer. And each layer has its own marks. The layers are above each other like notebook sheets. The bottom layer is always considered to be ancient. The top one is always considered as the youngest. It is important to remember that only organics can determine the age of each layer. It's not only the Cambrian Karatau that impresses the scientists, but also life that was here during the Jurassic period when Karatau lands were covered by water. The important activity took place in warm and shallow seas. The giant coral reefs that sheltered numerous ammonites were formed here. These were cephalopods, ancestors of modern snails. In these layers, scientists also found fossils of flying dinosaurs, tailed amphibians, ancient salamanders, and prehistoric turtles. It's so interesting to split a piece of the past and see those who lived billions of years ago. As you can see, it's hard to imagine how rich Karatau is with all sorts of skeletal fauna.
Я посмотрел и увидел вот именно камни, подержал в руках.
That is so impressive. I mean the stones exactly. I saw them. I had them in my hands. Just imagine a variety of plants and ancient animals that existed 600 million years ago, and they are now frozen in time. It was a fascinating feeling. Karatau made me feel that I traveled in time machine back to 600 million years ago. The first Kazakh Research Institute of Geology that graduated a lot of academicians and scientists offers to establish Geological Park in Karatau. Scientists are sure that the ridge can be called an open window to the past times of our planet, through which we can see the history of Earth dated 600 million years at least, see the movement of mountains, continents and flow of time. Karatau is an area of siliceous clastic and carbonate rocks. Stages of formation of the mountains have left mark in each geologic era.
Мы сейчас институт ставит задачу дальше расширить вот этот перечень ярусов изучаемых.
Now, the Institute has tasked to further expand the list of geological layers in Karatau.
Будем проработать
I think there are other layers and systems except of the Cambrian period. We are planning to study prospective layers, and according to researchers, we want to create a so-called geological park.
Значит, работа.
This is a very important work.
Если этот вопрос мы проработаем,
If we work on this question, it will have a scientific and practical importance.
и кроме того,
Moreover,
имеет очень
it is of a great educational value.
то есть магистранты
Undergraduates, doctoral students can be trained there and get practice.
то есть пройти практику и
They could study the natural occurrence of certain rocks based on actual materials.
по фактическим материалам изучать именно вот это, значит, естественное
And it will
заряжение.
become the new foundation of the stratigraphy in Kazakhstan.
Вот эту стратиграфию в конечном итоге могут стать фундаментом стратиграфических исследований Казахстана.
Kazakhstani geologists emphasize that Karatau can be attractive not only from scientific point of view. Scientists do not exclude that this mountainous area has also conditions for the development of geo and ecotourism. The variety of flora and fauna with rich prehistoric heritage of this area made a real open-air museum.
Ведь что это даст для нашей экономики?
What will it give to our economy? Now we need to restock the country's mineral resources. To make this, we must know the history of our land development. And such geological parks are needed to study the history of our planet. These are unique scientific landfills. Later, this science will turn into types of applied science that will help to refill mineral resources of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Researchers included into Geopark project several areas that are valuable for science and at the same time attractive for tourists. Perfectly preserved geological, archaeological, as well as paleontological artifacts of Karatau will be interesting not only for specialists, but for anybody who is fond of ecotourism. Geologists believe that if Geopark idea is implemented, the Karatau Mountains will have all chances to turn into global geologic and tourist brand, which of course will improve Kazakhstan's image on the world stage.